Reports of rising insecurity in Nigeria remain in the media space in the early months of 2022, leading up till the last quarter, and various armed groups engage in violent activities across the country. For instance, the Northwest and North Central regions experience an increase in banditry. The Northeast continue to deal with insurgency, and in the Southeast, they face violent secessionist agitations in addition to a weekly sit-at-home being implemented by the agitators. For the Southwest and South-South zones, they are still dealing with gang-related wars. The long-lasting farmer-herder conflict at one time was also at its peak at the beginning of the year, adding to the security and socio-economic challenges in the affected areas. However, the government, through the armed forces, have reassured citizens of a gradual but definite return to peace and normalcy in the affected areas. While troops continue to triumph over the insurgents and detractors, especially as we head towards elections in 2023, watchers have picked holes in some of the claims by government over enemies of the state. They claim that the zeal and commitment which we now see is all because politicians need a safe and secure country for elections to hold next year. But is that really the case? Well, to answer this and much more, I'm joined in the studio by retired Brigadier General Sani Usman Kukasheka, the former Army spokesman. I'm also joined by Dr. Kabir Adamu, the Chief Executive of Beacon Consult, a security and intelligence firm. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Viewers, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and I'm your host, Hamza Idris. We will take a quick break, and when we return, the program commences. Don't go away.
That's great.
Welcome back now to the conversation. I will start with the general. At the beginning of the January, February, March, whole of the first quarter, the impression generally was that maybe Nigeria will not be here by now. So what is your take now that Nigeria is still here?
Well,
I make a reference to the insecurity,
Well, thank you very much for having me in the program. And by the way, let me seize this opportunity to congratulate you for getting the highly coveted Dele Giwa Editor of the Year Award. Congratulations.
I'm honored, General. Thank you very much.
And
well, for all of us in Media Trust.
It's all right.
Yes, thank you.
We are really proud of you. Well done, and keep on doing the good work. You asked a very, very, very important question, and with that we can be able to measure, the extent to which we are progressing when it comes to the issue of dealing with security problem in this country. At the early part of the year, the security situation was very, very precarious and most unpredictable. But through to time and typical of Nigeria, we have witnessed some tremendous improvement in the security aspect, even though some people would like to context that. But the truth is that the security forces are doing a marvelous job. Hence, what we have been witnessing, especially in the recent past, and the onslaught on the terrorists, bandits, and kidnappers is ongoing, despite some hiccups here and there. But the truth is that I know there are a lot of factors that brought this into play, to the extent that if you look at it earlier on, there are certain missing components. Talking about holistic approach or holistic approach, and of course
to the operations.
Improvement in synergy and coordination, as well as injection of new hands and equipment, and of course continuous monitoring and giving strategic directives, unlike what was in the past. So there is more coordination, more mutual support among the security forces. Hence, we have witnessed. But most importantly, the issue of renewed interest on the part of the Nigerian society on the security challenges.
You're talking about the citizens now?
Yes, the citizens. But of course, people would like to say even the elites, first and foremost, they realize that the fire will consume them, because in most instances in the past, we were more or less working at cross purposes, unlike a situation whereby security is everybody's responsibility, even though they say the primary responsibility of the government is the security of lives and properties. But of course, the government rely on people also to assist it in dealing with some of these things. So this whole society approach, the improvement on the whole society approach, to a large extent contributed. People are now taking ownership, not necessarily about coming up with alternative. Take for instance, vigilante and what have you. No, but there is sense of interest and more security education. And more commitment, and that to a large extent complemented the efforts of the security forces, hence what we are witnessing. And I believe there is gradual improvement, and it will continue, because everybody knows what is at stake in the early part of next year, and you have to create a far more better conducive atmosphere for us to have a credible and free and fair elections.
Okay, maybe I should take the views of Dr. Adamu. At Beacon Consult, you tick the box almost every morning. Now, what is your impression? Because the question I asked General was that many thought Nigeria would disappear or it will melt because of the high tension, insecurity almost everywhere. And you've been monitoring that. So what is your take that Nigeria is still here? Because this is the last month, most likely the last week or so, we are approaching, the end of the year.
Yeah, no doubt security or insecurity will continue to remain a topic of national discourse, and will continue to generate the attention of our international partners. And the Fourth Estate, which you represent, have also responded in like manner by making it a daily topic. I doubt if there is any day that you would pick the papers that you would not see either as front page or as a reflection of the contents, security or insecurity as the case may be. But what have we seen in terms of numbers, fatalities, that is? If we compare 2021 to 2022, we've actually seen an increase. 2021, depending on what database you go with, there were about 9,000 people that died. Now this year, 2021,
9,000.
9,000. This year, we're already at 10,000.
An increase of 1,000. Exactly.
And so we're likely to see that, right through the end of the year. I don't think it would reach 11,000. Something phenomenal will have to happen for it to reach 11,000. So clearly, in my honest opinion, given the fact that it is a pre-election year, when all the circumstances that breed insecurity are usually exacerbated, most of us expected that this number will skyrocket. So the fact that we've seen this increase, which is minimal, I think it's actually positive. However, what is even more positive is if you digest the numbers, analyze them, you realize that a majority of this 10,000 were actually as a result of security forces operation that General alluded to earlier on. So it wasn't like it was in 2011, when almost probably 70 to 80% was as a result of the actions of these non-state armed groups.
Okay.
In this instance, it is actually the security forces that are going after the non-state actors and that have led to an increase in the number. So as an example, if you pick the month of July, when we saw a decrease, and then the unfortunate incident that happened in Kuje,
yes,
and then immediately after that, we saw an increase in the security operations with the old ones being
there
reversed.
was even a marching order, I think.
Exactly, from the president.
Directly that time, not through press statements.
Exactly.
Yes.
In fact, what was unprecedented was that 3 national security councils held in that month.
3?
3. As far as I study national security.
Yes, that's why I say you tick the box almost every morning.
I'm not aware that in the Fourth Republic, or even before then, there has been any time when 3 of such meetings were held in 1 month. Historians will correct me about that, but as far as I know, based on my studies, I'm not aware. So it was phenomenal. That affected security sector governance positively. It gingered up, which was the point General was making, it gingered up the security departments. They now saw not just the verbal directive, but they also felt the body language of Mr. President. Every time that meeting is held, they are made to give account for their stewardship and what they are going to do. So if you come, for instance, in week 1 and say you are going to do, by the time you come for week 2, you must say what you've been able to achieve. And that created ripple effects. So as an example, at least in recent times, we saw a GOC of Div 1 going live into the forest, leading his troops to go
when our
after.
reporters told us of that, I asked, the reporter from Kaduna, I said, is it maybe media stunt, to impress? They said, no, it's not just overnight or once, but it was a pattern of sorts.
So security sector governance as a single factor, I think, is one thing that has been remarkable. And we just like I've explained, we've seen how it has affected not just at the strategic level or at the policy level, also at the operational level, because it is the kind of pressure that he got from the leadership that made him to do that. And of course, we saw the result. So as an example, Operation Forest Sanity was introduced, which is remarkable because Operation Forest Sanity is all about going into the forest and rooting out the bad guys, unlike most of the other operations that were periodic, as the case may be. This time around, the mandate of that operation is to go after the bad guys in their operational areas. And all of this is as a result of this, security sector governance changes that I've mentioned.
Yes. General, there is this cliche that got missing from July, August, September. We repel. What we started hearing was that there was an operation, there was raid, and all that. How did that happen? I know you are out of the system, but a general is always a general. Your taps are on what is happening. Is it that, of course, you mentioned that there was new approach, synergy and all that, but beyond that, what really happened? Is it that they got new equipment, or the service chiefs and the generals manning some of the divisions saw the real red eye of the president?
Well, it's a combination of so many factors. First and foremost, the Nigerian military is one of the best in the world.
Going by our operations.
And in fact, given the circumstances they found themselves, they have been performing creditably well. But there were missing links before. But now the links are gradually being filled up. And, the strategic directive, injection of equipment, and the fact that you ginger the resilience that is latent in the average Nigerian officer or Nigerian soldier of the military. you know, it is not just, possibly the media has not done justice to some of the commanders actually.
Okay.
But I know that even Hadarin Daji, in most instances, the force commander or the general officer commanding a division also leads in the front. The same thing with the theater commander as well as the various sector commanders. It goes on, and I know even in 82 division and so on, in fact 81 division too, there were instances, you know.
But what was the missing link?
Not just the various platoon commanders,
yeah,
or the company commanders, or the battalion commanders, or the brigade commanders. Even the general officers commanding are also doing that. But it is not just that.
Okay.
Even the Air Force, you've seen where the Chief of Air Staff also went down the ladder and all the rest of course, and that is why you have not been hearing so much noise in our maritime environment, because of the resilience of the Chief of Naval Staff. You know, it trickled down. Oh. Now, these various commanders, right from the Chief of Defense Staff down to the service chiefs, they have given their respective, you know, subordinates all that it's required. And you have no excuse whatsoever for you not to perform. But beyond that, and I, just like Dr. Adamu has just said, is issue of you have been tasked, you must accomplish that task. But beyond that, again, you must make projection after the accomplishment of that task, so that you will also be judged on the basis of that. So these are the kind of things. That is one. The issue number two, like I told you, this whole society approach, it is beyond just the armed forces or the government. Some components of the Nigerian society that were not involved in dealing with the security issues are now being involved. And that is why you have been having the stakeholders, you know, consultations and what have you.
And what comes to mind when you say this is the committee that brought the last batch.
Exactly. So you see, if you look at the committee, the action committee, the composition is more or less like retired military officers and intellectuals who, under normal circumstances, they don't even have any relationship with the government. So now their involvement was able to solve a problem that we had been grappling with for 6 months. So then I told you about the equipment. You know, there was an injection of equipment among the armed forces, particularly the Air Force. So the air support is marvelous. So you can be able to decisively deal with these criminal elements by the time the air has done its job, and of course the bombardment by the artillery element, the infantry will walk in. So the synergy is so marvelous, and these are the things that hitherto were improved. I mean, were not as improved as they are now. And most importantly, you know, people volunteer information, timely and accurate, unlike a situation whereby they distract them. We have had instances where there will be allegations of, you know, bandits attacking a particular community, only for the troops to move towards that community. There will be ambush, and it will be the other way around. Now people are beginning to take ownership. So by releasing information. By releasing information.
There is mutual trust, because
you see, developed countries.
I know when you covered the Northeast, you were the spokesperson there. I was there also reporting. When you see, whenever there is an information, before you know it, the whole community, the insurgent will go and sack that community, even before the operation. This is in addition to the ambush of the military.
Exactly, because they know the terrain better than you do. So, but that notwithstanding, so there is this understanding and improvement. And if you look at it, you see, it's a complex situation, because once you improve the livelihood of people, once they begin to respect and trust you, they will volunteer for you. So, to a large extent, the issue of those in position of authority, they realize they must be accountable to the people. Therefore, in those days, there is nothing you will hide. I mean, unlike the first that you hide, now you have to involve the people. Now they have seen the results of cooperation, hence the improvement.
in the results.
So it's something that has always been there, but the missing links were not there, but now they are here. I mean, they are there now. You notice the improvement, and we'll continue to experience this improvement to the point when we will reach certain stable level that is acceptable
to everybody. Yes. Now, Doctor, I want to cite the latest result, which is November. And before I got to general, you made mention of the numbers. And when I was perusing the latest, I was scared because comparing the incidents. In November 2021, 115 incidents, but November 2022, 567, representing 393%. This is incidents. You will share more like what is incident, right? Now, the second one, fatalities. November 2021, 404. And November 2022, 1,047, representing 159.2% increase. In fact, my heart was in my destiny when I read this. But you made mention of something that is like last year, it was non-state actors.
Last month.
Last month, I mean, yeah. And then this time around,
it is the state actors that are going after.
Yes, so that Nigeria, because the report is there, and the people will assume that it is Nigerians, the civilians, that are really at the receiving end.
So, with all sense of responsibility, the results speak for themselves. Whether they are the bad guys or they are the law-abiding Nigerians.
But if they are the bad guys, I think we should celebrate.
There is a reason why we should be a little bit careful.
Okay.
Only a competent court of jurisdiction can declare someone as a bad guy. And before that declaration, it is, I know this is a little bit sensitive and debatable.
Yeah, but instead of there, maybe it should be gift for Nigeria.
It is extrajudicial to kill that person. You get my point?
Okay.
The law is clear about that. The only circumstance that I think an agent of the state can take someone's life is if he is protecting himself from death. So while we're happy to note that a significant number of the 1,049 were during security forces operations, we're also calling on the security agencies to increase their capacity to make arrests as against this type of killing, because studies have shown, and this is the point I want to emphasize, that where these types of killing go on, they breed insurgency, they breed the engendering of non-state armed groups, their proliferation. And that is exactly what we're seeing in the Southeast. The more we use force against them, the more they arm themselves and come after the state. So the point we're trying to make is the security forces operations are good. However, instead of the outright killing, if there is a way we can be making arrests and using the courts to, in a transparent manner, to try the arrested persons, and where they are guilty, pronounce them guilty as against killing them, and frankly, using the word neutralize. I'm a little bit uncomfortable.
The generals are very good at using that word. We will have a map to show the spread, but I want the general to talk on this briefly. At what point do you separate arresting non-state actors and then maybe also ambushing them and neutralizing them? Because he said, while people should be happy, but we have to be skeptical because some of these things are actually prejudicial of sort.
Well, I'm so glad that he called for caution and gave a caveat that is debatable in the sense that now let's look at it. Thankfully, you caught your teeth in the Northeast and you have experienced so many attacks by the terrorists. Now let's imagine a situation whereby terrorists or even bandits were attacking a particular community, ransacking, and you as a platoon commander or a security man, you are asked to deal with that issue. How do you approach that?
Can I interject here?
You are not Hamza, so let's look at it. Okay. So now,
but I'll give him a minute from my answer to help me out. Okay.
So now, just imagine for a minute the circumstances under which the security forces operate in that situation, and I made reference to know is the thing is no different with what obtained in most instances in the Northwest,
okay,
and even in the Northeast.
Ah.
Yes, and that is why you have the rules of engagement. Beyond what he said about self-defense, the security forces operate within the ambit of rules of engagement, at which point you will open fire, at which point you will not, and all the rest of the thing, and the caliber of weapons, and all the rest, giving you a training tactics and the operational exigencies at that time. Okay. Now you are dealing with an insurgent, or let's say whatever,
call suspect him, or whatever.
Whatever. Now they have graduated from den gun to AK-47, AK-49 to RPGs to the point that they aim at aircraft.
Yeah.
Now, at which point will you think of arrest? So these are the dynamics of the issue. But under normal circumstances, if it is possible, the person is not armed. And that is why those Boko Haram terrorists that surrendered, nobody touches them.
Yeah.
Including their families. So, but this one is at the point of committing atrocities, ransacking villages, raping women and children. So these are the circumstances.
Okay, you wanted to ask me a question, and there is no
so I just want your answer.
Well, the politicians, you can see what they are doing now. You can delegate, even though I don't have the capacity to delegate.
No, but we are dealing with serious issue.
Okay, so what would you say in respect to this?
So we have a national counterterrorism strategy that I'm sure General is very familiar with.
Okay.
And one of the provisions of that strategy is prevention.
Okay.
So for me, what I have mentioned is well documented in studies about those things that breed both insurgency and insurrection. If we want to bring this issue to an end, and more importantly, win the hearts and minds of the local population, then we have to change these dynamics. Yeah. And the best way to go about that is preventing it. So he gave us a very good scenario.
Yes.
Especially of the use of heavy caliber weaponry.
And they have them. Whenever they neutralize, you see them coming back with those which was actually a clear departure from what used to happen during the tactical maneuver days. And sometimes we would scratch to see whether there was actually tactical maneuver without it seeing the tangible.
If I may help you further, although you are yet to learn, you see, you are talking about a normative situation, but we are talking about the real, and we know all the security challenges, they emanated from one single thing.
Okay.
Issue of governance.
Their diet of governance.
Either bad or good.
So we agreed, actually.
We're on the same page.
Yes, we're on the same page. And
so basically, okay, we have passed a certain stage. Under normal circumstances, the complete resolution mechanisms that have been time-tested, and we have extant laws. And in fact, we have complete mapping, and you can be able to, in fact, predict before they allow, they are allowed to, escalate to that extent.
Because what we are seeing now,
before even the deployment, some of the issues now do not require deployment of the military.
Okay, maybe they share intelligence, and
in most instances, now let's look at the basis, and that is the point of convergence with us here. Now, some of the critical sectors, we have 3 tiers of government: federal, state, and local. Only 2. Now it's just like this, our center table. that has 3 legs. By the time you remove one, it's incapacitated.
Yeah.
So the issue is the governance. Even one of the tiers of government in a democratic society is more or less like moribund. You have seen even protests as of yesterday about the autonomy of the local government. They could have been able to mitigate. And look at all the security challenges, you can reduce them to a particular state, or let's say geopolitical zone, state, even a state, local government, even a local government, particular district or community as the case may be. But those things are not working. And unless we improve on it, to ensure that we build their resilience and capacity to deal with issues,
we will not get it.
They will not escalate to the extent that require deployment of security forces once in a while. But we have reached a point that even among families, people are drawing guns among themselves, blood.
Like what is happening in the United States. Thank you very much. Viewers, we will take a short break, and then when we return, there are many pressing questions in respect to how we get to where we are. Please don't go away.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. We are discussing national security under review because it is December. You can follow the conversation using all our various platforms on Twitter, Facebook, and follow us live on YouTube. In the studio, we have Dr. Kabiru Adamu, the Chief Executive of Beacon Consult, and retired Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka. Thank you very much. Before we went on the break, the complexities. And we'll see the map from the report you release, the specifics across the country. I can see that fatalities in November 2022, Northwest we have 417 fatalities. Yeah, can you make some explanation for us?
Yes, so what is represented there in the bubbles, the cycles, fatalities, and each of the bubbles is for a particular geopolitical zone, and we've made it simple by giving the different geopolitical zones colors. So in the Northwest, you have 417 fatalities. That's the number of persons that were killed,
including innocent citizens and suspects.
Well, you are calling them suspects. General will call them something else.
Okay, General, how do we call them?
Well,
bad guys, probably.
Well, continue with your analysis.
And then in the northeast, 337. Then North Central, 121. And then, of course, followed by Southeast, 98. Then South-South, 44. And consistently, like we've seen in previous months, Southwest had the lowest at 28. And the interesting thing, not so interesting for us, is if you add Northwest, Northeast, and North Central, it represents more than 80% of the fatalities.
So the violence is virtually in the north.
Well, the consequence of the violence is in the north. The number of persons that are dying more is in the north, unfortunately.
Okay.
What we've also done.
Okay, now this is 2022, right? What about now? Okay, 2021 and 2022 here.
Yeah. So we made a comparison, and what we are trying to do is to help not just the Fourth Estate, but also our security agencies, so that we tell ourselves the truth. Where were we and where are we?
Okay, so where were we?
Now, in terms of incidents,
Last year, around the same period, we recorded 115 incidents. And in this year, November, we recorded 567.
So there is an exponential increase.
393% increase. For abductions, last year, at the same period, 363. This year, 601, 66% increase. And then for fatalities, last year, 404. And then this year, 1,047, 159 increase. But again, like I said, last year it was not a pre-election year. This year it's a pre-election year. So we're not surprised about the increase.
This happened.
No, we're not.
But General, are we really progressing or we are regressing?
Well,
figures don't lie.
We have discussed this issue much earlier when he was explaining the circumstances where, and he has just given you one other reason. What was it? Pre-election year.
Yes.
And you know it. Since 1964, general elections have always been associated with violence in this country.
Oh, sad.
You have seen it. Even during the electioneering campaigns, there were fatalities somewhere. So that is one. And secondly, one other important factor, especially in the South, is something that we have never been experiencing before. Now, INEC facilities and resources are being
they also captured it in their...
Exactly. So that accounts for some of these issues. So if you are talking about progressing or retrogressing, I think it's relative.
Okay.
But the bottom line is that nobody should be happy with the fact that we are losing even a single soul.
Yes.
Regardless of the circumstances. Okay? But of course, these are some of the explanations. And when you look at it, given this explanation, I think there is a semblance of improvement, just like I said. Yeah. And you know it. Unlike in the past, let's say January or February this year up to March, before you move from here, Abuja to Kaduna, you know the number of prayers that you used to say. But now people...
Honestly, I drove for the first time.
Exactly. So if you are talking about progress, definitely you will realize that it is a progress, right? And it is not just that road alone. There are several other places where we have witnessed exponential increment in the security or the stability.
I was also in Maiduguri.
Good.
Yeah.
So you see, and you look at it, unlike if you look at the figure, 317 in the northeast, right?
Now, that is curious because we expected to get the least number.
Exactly, given the insurgency. So
how do you arrive at that?
It is not how he arrived at that. These are realities of the fact that security is improving.
Well, the amazing thing is, and again, this is with high sense of responsibility.
Yes.
While most of us were celebrating the progress in the Northeast, we knew that as from immediately after the death of the leader of both IS and then Al Qaeda.
Yes.
That is Sheikh
No.
Okay, I see.
Islamic movement.
International.
Yes.
Okay.
And this was, I think, in February or March.
Yes.
There was a call on their affiliates around the world to increase attacks. And incidentally, we saw fatalities rising in the Northeast. A lot of us did not pay attention to that, but we paid attention to it.
Exactly.
So basically, what I'm saying is that November was a change. If you look back at September,
Yeah, it was
August,
less.
and July, there was more in the Northeast than Northwest and North Central.
In addition to what he's saying, also, you know, the recent killing, United States killed
Yeah.
the new leader
Exactly.
himself.
Yes.
And of course, the projection is that there may likely be another call and there could be height.
In fact, there was. If you read that report, it was
exactly.
mentioned in
So,
the
but
report.
that notwithstanding, the people no longer hit the call. So this is something that you should look at that is very, very important.
Okay.
So why is it so?
Big question. So let's go to Northwest. We witnessed collateral damage of sorts a few weeks
ago.
Yeah, and the Chief of Defense Staff has commissioned investigation into that. So we need not to really do well. But why are we witnessing this at this time when the military are more equipped, more motivated, as you put it?
Are you asking him? No, but you have just given us that it's under investigation, so I think it will be soft-judiced.
But it's not in court.
We talk to. No, it is not. I think we don't want to preempt the outcome of the investigation. If you are asking, because the solution to every problem,
Yes.
actually, if you are able to answer the question why. Now, in these circumstances, both of us, me and you, do not know why.
Why I'm asking is
so the
because I've been
commission-
monitoring the change. You can see. I told you how we
Yeah,
were going
exactly. Incidences are bound to happen, collateral damages occur. But I think we should leave the investigative panel to come up with its finding. Then we can be able to know why it happened. But it is quite sad, quite unfortunate. It is really so sad that we are witnessing so much progress and we are experiencing this high number of casualties. Remember, even on the part of the military, there were also casualties. So these are something that really I would have loved to sympathize with, you know, commiserate with the families that have lost loved ones and the nation as a whole, you know, and call for patience and understanding and wait for the outcome of the commission of inquiry instituted so that we can know and so that we can learn lessons. Because once you know the answer of why or what happened, you can be able to mitigate or even if need be apportion blames and come out with proactive measures to guard against such occurrence.
Okay, yes. I don't know whether you will say something because Kala Balge in my mind, what happened in eastern part of Northern Borno years back, and then even in Yobe, not quite long, we did a report on this collateral, but the reason given then, that is the latest one in Yobe, I mean, it was that the terrorists hibernated
within.
Yeah, the name, they say Buhari or something like that is the name of the village. We revisited the village a year after there was no compensation. Now, based on your findings, did you get anything from Zamfara, or is just like what happened in Yobe?
There are some possibilities, and I agree with General. We should wait for the outcome of the Commission of Inquiry if they will make the outcome public, because that has always been the challenge.
Yeah.
Carrying Nigerians along.
Which is very important.
Exactly.
For confidence building.
You can't win an insurgency if you don't get the buy-in of the people. Now, it could be technical faults. It could be human error. Or misinterpretation of intelligence, which is tied to one of these two reasons, technical or human error. It could be any of these two. The circumstances are clear. There was an attack. There was a call for the Air Force to reinforce. They went there. They cited, from what we've heard, several bandit leaders.
Yes.
And the likelihood that those bandit leaders willingly used the residents as human shield is also there. So again, let's wait for the Commission of Inquiry to conduct an investigation and come out with. So during that inquiry, we're hoping that they will be able to identify whether it was technical faults, whether it was human error, or a misinterpretation of intelligence. Usually, and General can correct me if I'm wrong, there is supposed to be a congruence between technical intelligence and human intelligence. So what do I mean? We know for a fact that recently, due to the enhanced capabilities platforms that the Air Force has, I don't want to go in details into that, technical intelligence gathering has improved. But usually, especially when you want to order such precision style operations, you want to make sure you've got human intelligence on ground so that there is a congruence between the technical and the human before you now make that final move. So I'm hoping that during the Commission of Inquiry, all of these things will be checked. And
we are approaching election, and it's also the end of, it's a transition from one government to the other. But one thing remarkable that actually followed this administration is the inability or the slowness in tackling ideological spread by these non-state actors. Now we have Ansaru in Kaduna. Some are even saying they're in Zamfara. We have them in part of North Central, you know,
Niger.
And they live among the locals. Are we really going to see the end of this? And I'm specifically asking you because of your vast experience in the psychology of how these non-state actors operate, with regards to, you know, asymmetric warfare,
Well, first and foremost, if we are using the non-state actors, there are some of them that actually they are not ideological.
Okay.
And secondly, I think a lot is being done. I could remember not quite long, some of the ulamas and imams of the West African sub-region converge in Abuja to see how best, because you are making a terrible mistake if you think you can deal with the issue nationally only, because most of all this ideological, you know, they are transnational, sometimes beyond the African continent as it is. So you just have to cooperate with others. And I know that is issue number one. And of course, the Sahel countries and others, in fact, the Counter-Terrorism Center in Riyadh, right? They are also dealing with that issue. Now, to what extent it is achieving the desired result, that is something. But I think there is still room for improvement in dealing with this issue. But the issue of ideology, in most instances, they're not. Even those, psychologically, you have interviewed so many, you know, ex or Boko Haram terrorists. In most instances, the circumstances that brought it is not based on religious belief. There were other material things in life.
Exactly.
And it goes back to what we were talking about. And you made even reference to Kyle Balgi. And I don't know what it is now, but I can tell you, when I went to Kyle Balgi that day, I did not sleep. Why? It is not because of the damage or whatever. I just can't imagine
what happened.
Kyle Balgi is the local government headquarters of Ran local government in Borno State. But I can tell you there is no motorable road, no access road as of the time I went to that place. When I mean road, I'm even talking about the feeder road, this Larry, Kwanyan, Diffrey road, none whatsoever. You charge through the bush. And that local government headquarters is less than 30-something kilometers to Niger Republic. So if you don't have access road, and that local government as of the time I visited was over 30 years. And I'm sure
disconnected.
I'm sure there are so many other local governments like that.
Of course.
So when you are talking about ideology, you have to think of all those issues that have to do with the well-being of the society.
Exactly. And Dr. Kabiru, even in his latest report, you reflected some of this. So as an expert, finally, because we have come to the end of of the program, and closely related to what he was talking about in terms of the ideology. In a minute, this latest claim by some NGOs that, of course, we believe we are coming to the end of the war. We pray so also, that a lot of atrocities have been committed, including abortions and all that. Have you made any headway in actually validating or puncturing that, that claim?
So number one is that we were not aware, and believe me, we've got resources on the ground that do collect information for us, which is why we're able to do what we're doing. That's the first time we were hearing of something like that. So we were taken aback. But more interestingly, sometime earlier this week, there was a publication by a group of civil society organizations at the International Conference Center. And interestingly, they pinned down a particular international non-governmental organization as being responsible if at all something like that happened. So instead of the military being the culprit, it is if that publication by this coalition of civil society organizations is proven, it's an international non-governmental organization.
It's really dicey. I wish we have more time.
There is nothing
in 30 seconds. Just in 30
there is
seconds.
nothing dicey about it. He has just said the truth. And let me tell you,
there is complicity maybe to it.
Exactly. And one of the greatest mistakes is allowing the multiplicity of so many non-governmental organizations.
Yeah, we will discuss this again.
And they have their own roles.
Finally, from you, that you have real-time monitoring system.
Yes, we've introduced a new product called the IRS, Incident Reporting System. Okay. It uses AI, artificial intelligence, and it depicts in real-time incidents. So we urge everyone who is interested, go to our website at Beacon Consulting. You would see a map which will give you a sense of your local government. In fact, we've made it so granular. If you go to my local government, Dogondaji in Sokoto State, you'll be able to see the number of incidents that have occurred in Dogondaji for the period that you are interested.
Thank you very much. I wish we have more time to discuss it, but I think the positive news is that 2023 will be better for all.
By the grace of God.
All right. Thank you very much, General Kuka Sheka, for having time to come and then review there in less than 1 hour. Dr.
Thank you so much for having me on the program.
Thank you for coming to the program.
Our pleasure.
Viewers, that is our take on the security review for 2022, which we hope you enjoyed, because glad tidings here from wonderful gentlemen, and we hope we will all be happy with the outcome of what we discussed today. And that's a wrap on today's program. Thank you for watching, and do join us again for another edition. I'm Hamza Idris.